So for the longest time, one of my biggest ever problems in my social life was something as simple as knowing what to say next. This used to cause me so many problems. Like, I've always said that I'm quite good at starting conversations, like getting introductions out the way, then talking about just whatever for the first 1 or 2 minutes. But after that, when it came to what to talk about next, it was always just radio static in my brain. My brain would absolutely freeze up. I'm not getting anything from it. And it would always be some like long, drawn out, awkward silence when neither of us know what to say. It's happened so many more times than I'd like to admit. So when I was like 17 or 18, I started working in this department store selling TVs. And this was like my first ever weekend job. And I remember being quite excited when I started out there because I only had quite a small group of friends at my school, but working in this department store, there were loads of people my age, like boys and girls, who all just went to different schools. So I was kind of looking at this as an opportunity to almost reinvent my social life. Like if I could make friends with some of these people, then maybe I'd get invited to parties on the weekend. I wouldn't just spend all of my time playing games in my room. And at this time, I learned about this advice of, if you want to keep a conversation going, the best way is to ask a lot of questions, is to show a lot of interest in the other person. Because in order to be interesting in conversations, you first have to be interested. So I thought, I'm going to go up to these people and I'm just going to talk about their interests, and that will get them to like me and eventually we're going to become friends. So I think it was maybe my third weekend on the job. And I remember I just got in. And I seen this girl she must have been about my age. She was pretty hot, obviously for the time. And yeah, I remember going over to her and introducing myself. And, I'm like, how long have you been working here then? She's like, oh yeah, I've been working here for a year. And then kind of thinking, right, I need to find out what her interests are. So I say, oh, what do you do for fun? What do you like doing on the weekend? Says like, oh, like seeing friends and I like going out. So then I'm trying to ask her some more questions about that. Like, where do you like going out? But I'm not really getting anything back from her. And I don't really know why. Like, I'm making an effort here. But all I'm getting is like these one-word responses. And she honestly looks like a little bit uncomfortable with the fact I'm asking her so many questions. And the conversation ends up dying. And I'm like, well, you know what? I tried. I followed the advice. So surely it's gonna work if I just keep on trying. And I don't know if it was the same weekend or maybe like another weekend down the line. But remember, there's these like corridors upstairs in the stock room, and I'm like on the other side of the stock room, and I can hear this girl and one of her other friends, she's another girl who's like my age, talking about me. And I hear them say my name, and like my ears perk up. They're like, that Tom guy who just started working here, he's a fucking weirdo. He's weird, like saying all of this stuff about me behind my back. And I remember just being so embarrassed and hurt by that. Like, is that what everyone here is saying about me behind my back? Do they all just think I'm some weirdo? Because I'd actually been trying hard up to that point. So where had I been going wrong? So you could make the argument that I shouldn't have been deterred and that this girl is just a bad person. But, and this is what I want to talk to you about today, if for the last 5 years of my life experience anything to go on, and I get out of my comfort zone all the time, I'm constantly pushing myself in my social life, if that's anything to go on, then this really common piece of advice that we hear, just focus on them, make it all about them, and that's how we can keep a conversation going and be a good conversationalist. It's probably the biggest lie ever in all of social skills advice. It's the biggest piece of bullshit, and you should never ever follow that. I'd honestly say that every time I try to make it about their interest, try to please them or talk about something that I thought they would like, I actually made myself more nervous. My conversations were more dry than ever, and I often came across as just a total fucking NPC with no personality of my own. So in today's video, I'm going to give you a somewhat unconventional piece of advice. And there's a lot of people out here who would they would call me a bad friend, or they would call me selfish, or I don't know, arrogant or self-centered for using this. But honestly, my conversations only got better since I started exclusively focusing on my enjoyment. You know, I'm not even 1% thinking about whether they're enjoying this conversation. It's all about me. And again, some people would say that sounds like backwards advice, but this has actually brought so many more people into my life since I started doing this. Like, I like to think I know what I'm talking about because I've experimented with this exact approach in hundreds of conversations. Since I started doing this, I have more confidence in myself. I very rarely run out of things to say. That's very rarely a thought in my brain, like, am I going to freeze up? And honestly, I think most people would agree that conversations are just more fun for the both of us. So in this video, I'm going to give you 3 tips to stop freezing up and just be able to kind of talk non-stop using this approach. So tip 1 is a really important mindset for you if you want to stop being so nervous and stop freezing up midway through conversations like I did. This is one of the best mindsets I've ever learned. Like, it's honestly more of like a lifestyle than anything, but I don't ever hear people talking about this. And it really has changed my life. So I remember when I was younger and I'd hang around my little friend group. You know, we'd play games after school. We'd hop on Discord and just have a great time. I remember thinking, like, how come around my friends when I'm having fun, I'm so unfiltered and I don't worry about what the next words coming out of my mouth are going to be. I have zero anxiety and I feel just like free to just kind of say whatever I want. But if we were to then introduce like one new person who I don't know that well into the group, or even just in a group setting with a bunch of people I don't really know that well, why does that make me freeze up? Why do I second guess every word that comes out of my mouth? You know, plenty of times where I'd want to say something, but right at the last second, I'd talk myself out of it. And I tell myself, that's dumb. You should never say that. So the realization I've had is that not just when we're with our friends or people that we really trust, but when we're just having fun, when we give ourselves permission to like not take ourselves too seriously, that is when we ease up. That is when we're no longer overthinking. Like, we can just relax. And it's so much easier to like access almost what I describe as like built-in charisma. Like, my perspective is that every single person has charisma. Like, when you're with your friends, you're not overthinking. You can kind of just say whatever. The conversation flows. But it's things like social anxiety and fear of judgment that block that cause your brain to like kind of freeze up mid-conversation. But like, just because that happens, it doesn't mean you don't have it inside you. It's just like finding a way to bring that out. This mindset that I have, which I want you to just walk around with, like, this is a lifestyle for me. This is like an ever-present thought in my head. This mindset is, I want you to like repeat this out loud. The world exists for my entertainment. The world exists to make me laugh, to make me happy. Life is a comedy and everything gets better when you view it through that lens. When you start noticing just the funny side of the things around you and not taking yourself so seriously. I'm not just talking about in conversations. I genuinely hold the perspective that everything we do in life, if there's like a point to life, it should just be to have the most fun as possible. Like, in the small moments, like, honestly, every single thing in life, like every single area, whether that's when you're dating or when you're with friends or even like at work to an extent, it's all so much better when you're just trying to have fun, when you're not taking yourself too seriously. And it's like a really great example of this was when I was learning cold approach. And I was getting coached by this YouTuber called Nicoletti, who does like dating and cold approach videos. Definitely check him out. One of the tips he gave me is, before you go and approach a really hot girl, because naturally you're going to be nervous, one of the tips he told me is that just think of something funny. Just make yourself laugh right before you go and approach that girl. And suddenly you're just coming with like a different kind of energy. It's like the vibe you're bringing is a lot less serious, and now it's more like relaxed and playful. It's like, okay, you're intimidatingly good looking, but I actually don't care because, you know, I'm just here to have fun. I'm just here to have a good time. And that's very attractive, not just to girls, but just people in general. But yeah, the best kind of energy for social interactions is just like not taking yourself too seriously, very playful, very relaxed. And that's what allows you to just talk freely without fear. Like your brain is never going to get blocked up when, you're just not taking the situation that seriously. So embrace this mindset because it's honestly an absolute cheat code and it's changed my life. So tip number 2 is focus on your own enjoyment above anyone else's. So again, coming back to this belief, so many people think the best way to keep a conversation going or to be a good conversationalist is to show an interest in them. And I'm not going to say that's a bad thing, but it's like, if we take this advice so literally, we just end up a fucking NPC. So I remember at parties, I would meet new people and just launch into question time. Like I needed to find out as quickly as possible what they were interested in. And then we just talk about that and then they're going to like me. And doing that was never actually that fun for me, but I kind of just believed, okay, this is the way to be social and make new friends. And sure, I'm able to extend the conversation past a few minutes and I talked to lots of different people using this approach, but the conversations themselves would just feel quite dry. Again, it would be loads of things like these people giving me one-word answers. I think a lot of people just aren't that willing to share or go into detail with people who they've just met, maybe unless they're drunk. But yeah, another thing that would happen was at these parties, especially university parties, I'd see a lot of the same people. I might have spent 15 minutes talking to them at one party, but I'd go up to them and they just wouldn't know who I was. Like they'd treat me as if they'd never seen me before in their life because these conversations just weren't memorable. Personally, I think conversations are not supposed to be scripted, There's no fun in data collecting about someone else. Like for me, the fun in conversations comes from the spontaneity. It's like reacting in the moment. It's like starting in one place and then ending up in a completely different place that you didn't expect to. And I think importantly, it's just not having the same conversation that you could have with anyone else. So the realization I had is that focusing on the other person exclusively just is no good. It's just shit advice because one, you're taking more than you're giving and you're probably coming across as a little bit needy. And people just aren't that comfortable opening up to people they've just met a lot of the time. And two, and I cannot stress this enough because no one talks about this, but the entire conversation depends on whether they're actually interesting or whether they're socially skilled, because so many people just have no social skills and absolutely suck at expressing themselves and will give like one-word answers. They make it extremely difficult for us. And we start freezing up thinking about what to talk about next, when actually it's just because they're just not giving us any material to work with. Like, they're not making it easy on us either. So what we need to do is take charge of this conversation. We need to be the ones to set the frame. Instead of focusing on their enjoyment and relying on them for a fun conversation, we're going to create that fun ourselves. And ironically, 8 out of 10 times, they're actually going to enjoy this more. Us being more selfish and focusing on the things we like, they are going to enjoy it more. So tip 3, how do we actually do this in practice? So the obvious thing to say would just be to talk more about yourself. Don't make it all about them. Talk more about us, show off more of our personality. But I think we can take that further. So literally this week I was at this conference for work and they've got us sitting in this like massive conference hall, massive room, loads of different tables. There's maybe about like 150 people in here and they're all my age. Like we all work the same job, but like we work for different organizations, if that makes sense. They're all like up and down the country. So I don't really know any of these people. And I'm sat at this table with like about 8 or 9 people on it and no one is saying anything. Like it's kind of awkward and I'm actually feeling a little bit nervous because of that. But I want to present myself as this confident guy. I want to say something to the group because, I make YouTube videos on confidence and I kind of feel like I've got a reputation to uphold, which is actually quite difficult, to be honest. But I realize I'm actually trying a little bit too hard here. I'm thinking a little bit too hard about what the right thing to say would be. in this instance. And I remember that mindset that I taught you, like the world exists for my entertainment. And I'm kind of thinking I'm taking this too seriously. Like there shouldn't be any situation or group of people that are making me question the next words out of my mouth. Like I should be trying to entertain myself here. Like I need to make this fun for me. So surely if there is a right thing to say in this moment, it's whatever would entertain me, like whatever I would find funny or interesting. So without even really thinking, I'm like looking around the room and I can see there's this lake outside, and just like without hesitation, I turn to these two guys on my left and I'm like, so how many people do you think have pissed in that lake? Just the fucking stupidest joke ever. And I'm like, I'm laughing at my own joke. And even though it's so childish and like, it's just this random dumb thought that's come into my head, somehow that like really lightens the mood. It's like in a weird way, this has kind of broken the ice between me and my table. And now everyone's not so nervous. They're not all taking themselves so seriously. And we are kind of joking a bit back and forth. Like the conversation starts flowing and we are talking about some work stuff as well, but it's like no one is super self-conscious anymore, if that makes sense. And the reason this works is because I learned about this idea called emotional contagion. So this idea from psychology, which says that people actually end up mirroring, so they copy subconsciously the emotions of the people around them. So I think at the beginning, everyone at my table was all quite tense and nervous. I started feeling a bit more anxious when I saw how they were acting. But then after I made that joke, it's like, you know, they see me like laughing at my own jokes like a fucking idiot and just not taking myself too seriously. That kind of subconsciously gives them permission to kind of ease up a bit. It's like they feel that energy and almost take that as like a cue to relax, like everything's okay. And this is why I'd say that this approach of like only caring about my enjoyment more than anyone else's has actually brought more people into my life. It's because I think most of my friends would say when they're around me, they're not performing. Like they actually can just be themselves. You know, they don't feel pressure to like impress me or anything because I'm just a fucking idiot and I just say the dumbest shit all the time. So in terms of like how to do this in a practical way, whenever we're in doubt, whenever we feel ourselves freezing up or we don't know what to say, instead of chasing the reaction of other people or like trying to make them laugh or make them like us, we just need to ask ourselves the question, like, how can I make this moment fun for me? So whether it's saying some random or funny thought that's like just come into our head, or pointing out something that we find interesting, or asking a question that we genuinely want to know the answer to, whatever it is, try not to focus on other people's reactions. Like when you say something like this, when you say some random line, don't even look the other person in the face, because we're not doing it for them. We're doing it for us. We're generating our own positive vibes. But when I'm coming with this like playful, unserious energy, truth be told, I don't know what I'm going to say next. Like I don't have that all mapped out, but I'm just not worried about that. Like that's not a thought in my head. I'm not concerned about freezing up or like worried about what I'm going to say next, because in my mind, it's just not that serious. Like I can get away with saying something dumb because I'm just here to have fun. Like this is the key to it. When you're not taking life too seriously, you're just so much more comfortable making jokes and sharing these little random thoughts that come into your head. And it's creating the right set of conditions for us not to have that like brain freeze kind of jamming up mid-conversation. So that is the solution to this problem. See, I actually really enjoyed making this video because this is a problem that I suffered with for such a long time. And I honestly feel like this is a better solution than ones I've heard online, like little techniques to like talk non-stop, but you're actually not enjoying the conversation, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'd really recommend this. Just focus on your own enjoyment above anyone else's, and watch how many people get brought into your life. So that is all from me today, bro. I will see you in the next one.